start with one of my poems. War raging, trembling inside my armor. War raging, leaping off into the moat, landing safely, softly on the breath. Landing softly on the breath. So, and that's kind of, we create these incredible stories. And so tonight, we've kind of, with these aggregates, they are, there are things that in our sitting experience, we can recognize, and also then have some means of creating some space so we're not just caught up in them. So there's the body, and again, it is in some ways those elements of, it's really the actual experiences that come out of those elements of, of earth element of heavy and lightness. So just to note that in the body, or whether it's to be aware of when there's a sense of hot or cold, which is the fire element, or a sense of vibration or tingling, which is the air element, and a sense of cohesion or fluidity as the water element. And these are just these four elements. There's a practice in Burma that you just kind of name those as a way to identify and disidentify at the same time. So that's because you are more than that. So we have the body, and it is a great reminder, and these aggregates that somehow we can either identify or we can disidentify. We can actually create some space around it. And that's really what studying the aggregates is particularly about. That the second one is this word Vedana, which, in many ways you could say it's just simple in the sense that when you notice pleasantness in the body, that you kind of get, oh, that's Vedana, I got that. And that they're recognizing it also means that there can be a little space between the knowing of it and the experience of that pleasantness itself. And that little space right there is where you could say intelligence comes in. And so a lot of this is just of how do we create a little space between the knowing itself and these experiences. Unpleasantness, we again, there's with pleasantness and unpleasant, there is such instinctual reactivity towards it. But what I'm talking about here is just the bare bones of of recognizing it and seeing that is not, it's not me, it's not mine, it's a process that's happening. And therefore, I understand it. The same way that that's the Vedana, and then the Sana, which is we talked about last night, is this ability to perceive memory or to be able to name. But the bare bones, so we actually haven't put any reaction from maybe aversion or liking on it. We just simply note it for what it is. So, and I'm not saying, because a lot of times any of these, whether it's a body sensation or whether it's a feeling of pleasantness or unpleasantness, or the recognizing of it, that at that point, there is where we fall into this fourth one, which is what I want to talk about tonight, which is Sankara, which is mental formations. And, it's really what we concoct, what we make up about our experience. And of course, it's mixed with kind of memory. It's mixed with, our past, and sometimes anticipation of future, whatever. But it's actually that mind that is taking maybe a body experience, maybe just a feeling, maybe a simple, direct perception, and you could say manufacturing, that we then manufacture something from those experiences that then in some ways may cause delusion, but it also may be that we can catch it. And that's really in the sitting practice. What's so helpful is that it's just this whole process of, there is sensations, there's feelings, there is really that we know in emotions, and thinking. And thinking is all this mental formation. It's something we're actually making up. Sometimes, I think that it's like a little bubble machine back there, and it's just shooting, you sit there and it just shoots out these sometimes ridiculous thoughts. But in a sense, if we're aware of that thinking is going on, then we can see it's just a bubble machine. It's just kind of pushing, and I have no idea where these things, I know some of them are associative, but a lot of them sometimes come out of nowhere, and then we create, sometimes our perceived reality around that, around those particular thoughts. So our job here is, first of all, to know that there is a bubble machine there, and it's not our business. We aren't going to stop it. I think sometimes people come to, I know when I first came at the Zen Center, I thought that I could actually, if I could just sit, then I would stop thinking. And it happens sometimes, but that's not the teachings. The teachings are not being bothered by the thinking. And so we spend a lot of time, I think the first years of just kind of sitting there, and some association comes along and we get caught on the train of association, and suddenly we're off and running, and you just, excuse me, you may have wasted a little bit of time as part of practice, because in reality, you didn't do anything with that. If you had some insight into it, that's great, but the probability is not so much. It's just another mental, it can be very trippy, associations, but this is the trick, though. When we sit, I mean, first of all, if these thoughts are like bubbles, they keep popping up, and they have associations, so we can either grab a hold of them and make something out of them, or we can see them. And that this is the thing, to see them, and to see them for what they are. It means, oh, those are associative thoughts. And they, in a sense, the thoughts are thinking themselves, And at that point, we can actually, in a sense, kind of break in, because one of the big pieces here is that, and this is the tricky thing of this Sankara, is that those mental formations are very much based on who I think I am. So there is a huge selfing part of it that is there in the identifying. And so we have to, in some ways, this is really why it's called a wisdom practice, is we begin to see that we are actually, you are more than your thoughts, and yet as a culture, we are so defined by our thoughts. So in many ways, this is it's an art of being able to sit and as storyline, thoughts, memories, planning, all this is part of those mental formations, is that we can actually kind of step back, and see them as processes and not as that I jump on the train of association of thinking, the need to somehow, I have to, this is admit, I've spent many, many hours in meditation retreats thinking, and not getting anywhere because I wasn't doing anything, and sometimes I go, oh my God, I wasted my time, But another way of looking at it is that, oh no, I see how far I got and I wasn't going anywhere. And so there was the capacity for some insight of what that was, And I don't think I've ever solved anything in a meditation retreat, because that was not the idea. The idea was to see the operating system, to see how my construct, whether it was experience of body or of my experience of something pleasant or unpleasant, or my naming and knowing of it, that if I can kind of do that, then one of the things is here is the place where we manufacture the thing called self. So that is kind of, to me, the biggest teaching in mental formations. But as a practice is learning to somehow get that, I am more than my thoughts, and that I have choice, and that I actually use choice in saying, okay, you know what, I could get on that train of association and maybe I could outthink it, but I don't think you're going to outthink things, Actually, I think we're much more intuitive creatures than that we actually have to be. I think sometimes, how do we make decisions and all that? Well, it's a way that somehow we may sit with that for a little while and realize that, oh no, that's not going to answer it. That what's going to answer it is if I can just sit in the center of my world and I listen. And if I listen, then at some point, then there, and I'm only going to say maybe there is actually an insight that can be an answer to that. But it actually has come out of nowhere. It's not something you manufactured. It's something you set up. And that's really what's the wonder of these practices are, is it kind of sets up that, it's like setting up a no-win, It's not like you're going to win or lose. You're simply not going to go there. And yet you're going to create the space for this beautiful intuitive intelligence, which is really, what this practice is. It's intuitive intelligence. It's that ability to kind of hang out. And sometimes you have to wait longer than you would otherwise, which is a lot of the learning in the sitting practice. I think a lot of it is about the waiting and patience that we kind of strengthen in these practices. And then suddenly that recognizing that the thinking itself, the process itself, is not, it's not me, it's not I, it's not mine. And that, so there's suddenly a little bit of space between the identification with the thought process and the kind of mind that's searching for a solution or something, some answer. Instead, it says, oh no, I just want to, I'm going to kind of stay with this as a process, and I get it. And if I have enough patience and enough wherewithal and time, um, uh, you know, I think sometimes answers do come, and sometimes they don't. You know, that's the thing. They don't come, and you go, "Oh my God, I thought," you know, well, you weren't supposed to know that yet. You know, whatever that was, you weren't supposed to know it. And so life is going to bring you an answer, but it's going to be down the road. And so the practices in that way, you can say, "Oh, geez, it didn't work." That's okay. You know, it doesn't have to. All it has to do is to set it up and not, and to, in a sense, kind of see the operating system of how it's kind of holding you and capturing you, and you know, trying to make you go left or right. And you're actually saying, "No, no, I see you." And oh, I see you. I see this as a particular process that is, first of all, it may appear very personal, but in reality, it is not personal. It is simply a process. And so with that, there's a little bit of space. And with that, then it can give, um, you know, first of all, you don't make a fool out of yourself choosing something that, oh, what a great idea, you know, that you don't do that. You actually kind of, oh no, I'm going to sit and wait and kind of sit this out. I think, you know, if this has taught me anything, it's taught me a lot of tolerance and patience. And I don't know, you know, I have no idea about most things, you know. I mean, it's actually gotten worse over the years. I've just kind of given up knowing anything, you know. And in these times particularly, you know. I have to say, I had to go to the doctor this morning, and anyway, there's a long story about this, but I had that swab in the nose, and they took what they take DNA through blood, and see that I haven't been around the virus, you know. Well, that one was for the last 2 months, if I've been in contact with it, which I haven't, and I'm not now, you know. But now that doesn't say anything about tomorrow. I realize you're just like kind of touching the past for a moment. But it actually feels a little good too, that, you know, I don't get out much. So I wasn't really concerned. I'm kind of more hermit type anyway. So, but I did have housemate person who was kind of concerned about me. And so I went and cleared out, and I didn't, you know, it was to me, it wasn't a big deal. You know, I didn't make up anything about it, you know, but I'm glad I did it. I went, oh, well, it's good. You know, I know something, but I don't really know anything, you know. It's like, especially in these times, you know, we're such great storytellers, you know. And we're also, the other thing I see, we're fear-based beings, and sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes I don't know uh, what is and what isn't, you know. So I think that's all I wanted, and then we'll do some questions and answers. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to read this because I just, you know, I guess there's part of me that says, okay, here we're studying these very, you know, these systems that are where we identify who we think we are with them. And they're all jumbled, and we're trying to separate them out a little, you know. But I wanted to read this. This is from Denise Levertov. It's called The Fountain. I just love it. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall, and you drinking there. I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink that cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she begrudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't they say there is no water. That fountain has been there among the scalloped green and gray stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and out through the rock. So, you have